I don't think we're ready for a democracy.
And now you're sounding like a dictator.
No.
Now you're sounding like
just let me.
General Ayub Khan.
No, just let me.
This country.
The people that you're describing, I don't see a lot of them around.
In this country, the issue is not AI, it's the intelligence institution. And by not voting, you are making their task much easier.
Assalamu alaikum ji, I'm Kazi Akber. Catch me and Shahzeb Jilani talk politics, the campaign trail, elections on Unfiltered, which is a podcast on DawnNews English.
In this country, the public is up against few powerful people who like to control the destiny of this country. How are you going to fight them? I don't believe in violent revolutions. There are some people who do, and they've been calling for it. I don't believe that that's going to help. So you fight it politically. And by politically, you have political parties. Yes, they may be corrupt and compromise and everything, but those are your institutions through which you push back. And so election in that way matters. Now take this election, for example, where you've seen everybody saying, oh, it is not fair and free, PTI is out, Imran Khan is in jail, this is a fixed match, blah, 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 blah. How are you going to make it difficult for them to have it their way? By coming out in greater numbers than expected. The only way to fight that is to actually come out in greater numbers and vote for the people you believe in and what they stand up for, right? By not coming out and by not voting, you are making their task much easier. Today I've done my bit. My job doesn't end today. I mean, we seem to think that, you voted in election, now you can kick back and you can abuse everybody and say system doesn't work, that doesn't work. Fine, you can still do that, even without voting.
Still throw trash on the road, all that.
Yeah, but that is a citizen's right, often their duty. And what I am saying as a journalist is that our job is to ensure that, in our work, in what we say, and what we do.
So it's interesting that you said that. So I was listening to a podcast and someone made the remark that cynicism is 100% a guarded response. The only people who are cynical are actually people who are afraid to have their hope crushed again. But what you seem to be prescribing is more hope.
Despite everything that this country has suffered in the last 75 years, we cannot give up hope. What kind of a country this should be, whether it should be a democratic country, we can't give up hope. People of this country have sacrificed enough. So, despite my cynicism with my age, I would still put a lot of hope in our younger people.
But, okay, so you mentioned, your age and generations. You think we've forgotten ourselves? Because the people that you're describing, I don't see a lot of them around, And it's not that I don't see them, I meet them, but I'm also privileged. But they're not celebrated the way some other people are celebrated, you know what I mean? So our story does not include that. Where I know what you're saying to be true, that's not the narrative that we are taught. That's not what we learn, and that's not what we inherit. The stories that we inherit are stories of whimsy and romance, and we don't inherit stories of when something was done that was not right, that was wrong. Our people are the people who stood up. Our people are the people who fought back against it.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly sometimes arrogant of us to underestimate the younger generation.
Fair.
And again, I think each generation is guilty of it when they say, "Oh, in bachcho ko kuch nahi pata," There is a generation gap. But when I said every generation has fought its own struggle, so my father was fighting a martial law.
Sure.
He was in jail. He was tortured. I have done whatever I can in my own profession. I didn't go to jail. I haven't been tortured. We've suffered through unstable democracies throughout the 90s and after that, but we are still at it. The generation after me, the digital generation, is far more aware. It is, and like I said, I sense they have lower tolerance for BS. So try as we might through our, conversation to educate our younger generation, they will make their own mistakes, and I think we need to give them some room, but also have faith that they will also learn and they will demand change.
So what's interesting about what you've just said is we're in a post-truth era, right? And so this is, again, experts say it, it's not me, right? So social media, where yes, it is immensely powerful, it's a powerful tool, and the younger generation, I mean, they can use it. How do they, my problem is they don't really know what's right.
You think?
Because everyone and their dog can have their opinion online, right? All they need is a really poor internet connection, and the accounts are free, right? So they can be on X or Twitter or what have you, Facebook or what have you, right? And they can just give their opinion. Now, again, because we're beholden to, like you said, because we're beholden to populism, my problem is you just needed to sound sensational for them to gravitate towards it, right? So I don't know if they have a handle on the truth.
I was looking at a survey recently conducted in universities of younger people about disinformation, propaganda, and all that. And younger people are actually, again, I think we underestimate them. I think the survey has found that they are deeply concerned about fake news, about propaganda, about trolls, about running these campaigns. I think they are aware. And we shouldn't underestimate them. Yes, those of us who are in journalism, we need to keep educating. We need to keep exposing lies. The fight between truth and lies is eternal since the start of time. It will continue. With digital and artificial intelligence, it's more complicated.
Sure.
But the battle will continue, right? There's a lot of concern, for example, in the country about the use of artificial intelligence for political purposes, for disruption, for creating chaos in the country. And you work in this field, right?
Yeah. The concern is valid, right? Because the thing is, this is the first iteration. You see, this is Pentium 1. This is version 1.2 maybe. And already, artificial intelligence is almost conversational. You have programs like ChatGPT and so on. You don't even know anymore who you're corresponding with. Is it this person, or is it this person using a certain bot or what have you? So I think the concern is well placed. Because, and again, the truth and something that sounds like the truth, it's become more and more difficult to discern between the two. I think that's where my concern is, and that's why I am not underestimating the people younger than me. I am, however, wanting that we appreciate how serious this information influx is. Because yes, because these concerns about post-truths have never been actual concerns before this, right? What was propaganda back in the day? Propaganda back in the day was stories. Well, after that, it was the printing press. See, it's never been this fast, and it's never been this vast. Just the tonnage, the terabytes and whatever comes after terabytes of information that these kids are being flooded with.
So look, I mean, a lot of people are ringing alarm bells about artificial intelligence. I still think in this country, the issue is not AI, it's the intelligence institution. Okay? And I think unless we put that whole apparatus into its place where it belongs, our biggest sort of destabilization comes from there. I can tell you, having covered 5-6 elections, the role of intelligence officials has been hugely detrimental in fixing elections, rigging elections, engineering elections, bringing in politicians with no public support, taking them to the highest office in the country as we have right now. That has a huge effect on the country and people's faith in the system. So concerns about AI are fine, fair enough, but I think that's not what's going to decide, which way the election goes.
Most of these kids, again, now they can vote, right? And now they have all this information, right? And they are of voting age. If they're of voting age, then they're adults. Then more should be expected of them, no?
Okay, let them vote, the first timers, right?
All right.
And I said, as I said, if they vote for the wrong party, it's on them.
They'll find
right?
out. Okay.
There has to be then public ownership. Why did I vote for this crook, right? And that is the democratic exercise. So, again, I mean, my question to you is, are you going to vote?
So you're saying be hopeful.
I'm trying to convince you.
I know,
to vote.
I understand that. And you're saying be hopeful, and where it's maybe I should vote, right? What really scared me after the whole thing happened was, how when you keep hyping someone up, but they don't actually they're never actually required to test their ability, and you find out that they maybe don't have the ability that they've been advertising. So that was my concern. My concern even with them is, if they don't actually compete and don't actually hold themselves to a standard that international intelligence bodies are held to, they might lose their own edge, right? There is a place for intelligence, there is a place for military. No one's saying there isn't. Of course there is, right? I mean, the most powerful countries in the world have very powerful militaries, right? And you need to keep them sharp. I just wish they could trust us a little bit as well, right? To do our part.
Yeah,
or share power or whatever.
Or they stick to their job. For those people who are voting for the first time, let's say, what do you think are the three main issues which will kind of help them decide who to vote for?
Who to vote for? First off, obviously the consequences of voting for said person, right? So what will it bring?
No, if they are voting for X.
Okay.
Why? On what is the criteria? How do you decide who to vote for?
Oh, that's difficult.
You see, when we figure that out, right, a lot of things will be clear. My answer would be, it depends where they are. Okay?
Yes. Okay.
People in cities have slightly different concerns.
Sure.
People in villages have other concerns.
Sure.
Take, for example, the province of Sindh, where we are right now. Do you think the PPP will return? I would say yes.
It's likely, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Which means 20 years of PPP.
Sure.
Right? It's not going to make sense to a lot of people in Karachi, right? They're going to say, but they have a disastrous performance. Look at the governance. Look at, they are a party of the past. They keep talking about martyrs, and they don't talk about the future and all that, right?
Which is all true.
Which is all true.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But you go to the hinterland and you ask people, why are you voting for PPP? And they will give you very clear reasons why they are voting for PPP. They'll tell you, well, I don't care if my MNA MPA is corrupt, but they are available. When the policeman takes my boy to the thana and he's beating the hell out of him, I know where to go to and get my son released, right? When I want a job, these guys are available. Yes, they've asked me for money, but at least I get the job, right? I have somebody to turn to. When somebody dies in my family, they show up.
They show up.
For condolences. When there's a wedding in my family, they show up, right? So they are in touch with me. And yes, I have seen them become millionaires or billionaires in the last 15 years. But then, there aren't any like dead honest people in politics. Everybody's corrupt. So I'm going to go for somebody who is within my reach. Somebody who comes to my house to ask for votes, and I give them hell, and they listen to me, and then they say, next time we will be better. That's why people still vote for the PPP, right? Now, this is something that doesn't make sense to, us sitting in the city and talking about governance and looking at the big complex problems and foreign policy and all. It's not the criteria. That's not the criteria why people go out of their homes, they line up, and they vote for the status quo party, which to an urban person has failed to deliver. But to them, they are delivering. So what I'm not defending the PPP record. What I'm doing is I'm trying to explain why some of these legacy parties, these dynasties, continue to thrive.
Well, they also thrive because this situation that you mentioned, they do propagate some of that. Do you know?
Absolutely.
Like, so for instance,
absolutely.
So if the police is under them,
yeah,
why is the police behaving the way it's behaving in the first place,
absolutely,
right? And so, but to your point, how do you, well, you would, ideally, the villages would just evolve and turn into towns and eventually, how is that going to happen? Well, economic prosperity and growth and all those things, and how does that happen? I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It becomes a dysfunctional, corrupt system which perpetuates itself, and because the voter is expecting some sort of personal benefit or financial reward. That's the whole chain. The voter in the village doesn't realize that I'm connected with this party or with this person, and they have created their own fiefdom by having these officials posted there. They are minting millions and giving me peanuts, right? So that is the realization that we would need going forward. But also we also need alternates, right? If the status quo party is not delivering, what choice do I have? And invariably, when you ask people, they will say, there's no choice. I don't want to waste my vote to somebody who's not going to get elected.
And then they're
so
not.
might as well fall in line and be in the good books of somebody who's destined to return to power, right? So what I'm saying is people decide on very pragmatic basis who they're going to vote for. These are not lofty, idealistic ideas people have about the betterment of country and where will Pakistan be in 2030.
Legacy and all that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
These are very practical reasons why an individual or an entire neighborhood or an entire village will go back and thappe pe thappa and tir pe thappa.
And I've been angry in the past, and I think I've calmed down now, but I don't think we're ready for a democracy. And
now you're sounding like a dictator.
No.
Now you're sounding like General Ayub Khan.
No, just let me.
This country, these people are illiterate. They don't know what they're doing. I'm going to help them.
Okay, but
they will be controlled democracy.
No.
We have a controlled democracy. So
we do have a controlled
democracy.
we do, and it's not working. But so, what's the bare minimum for someone to get a vote? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's something that I struggle with. Where, what is the? Because
here's my very simple question.
How can your vote and mine be the same? It can't be the same.
No, it's one person, one vote, irrespective of your qualification, my qualification. I may be an angutha chap. I may be illiterate, but I know my interests. You can't tell me about my interests. I know my interests, right? And this is what I was trying to explain. The rural voter, what are their considerations, what is their criteria. And yes, you can argue that in a country where 40% people are illiterate, what do they know about governance and this and that? But that is the only game in town.
My concern is that the game is they are then made fools out of by these people who have all this money to campaign and do the politics and play that game, and those people aren't ready for these people to go and campaign and to ask them for the truth. Because here's the thing, and my ultimate concern is this: when someone powerful stands in front of you, says I will deliver X, Y, and Z, and in return you will vote for me, and I don't have food for three meals a day, 3 square meals a day, right? And my kids don't have shoes or whatever. How do I tell them, no, you're the same person who was here the last 4 years ago or whatever, and you did nothing, right?
Well, so again, slightly unfair. I will remind you that I'm giving social security. I have distributed Benazir income support programs. I will remind you, we are rebuilding houses which were destroyed by last floods. So it's not like they're not delivering at all. They are delivering. Talk to people, and they will tell you. They may be completely illiterate, but they'll give you reasons why they're voting for somebody, right? But let me ask you this. I mean, clearly, you have never contested election.
Oh, I have not.
Right?
Yes.
What about in college, university?
I did. Yeah. Good track record also.
Did you win?
I did.
How many? I mean, what did you?
What was my percentage of winning?
No. What were you contesting? Which position? What were you doing?
Oh, house captains and such.
Okay.
And also we had a government body in my O-level school.
And how many people were voting for you?
Must have been 1,000.
Oh wow. Okay. So
500. Sorry, 500.
Okay.
Because they didn't give the women the vote because they had their own segregated school.
In previous century or what?
Segregated school.
Back in the day, women weren't allowed to vote. Okay.
Segregated school we had.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you campaign?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
You see, There are two things which are very difficult in life, in my experience. Asking somebody for money
Yes.
and asking somebody
To choose you.
to put their trust in me, right?
Yes.
It's not, and that is why no matter how much we criticize politics, I have huge respect for people who are voted into office.
Without a doubt.
You
Of
know?
course, yes. Yes.
कौन करता है यार? Who goes? You know, I can tell you, I walk out of this office and I go around and I'm asking people for money. कि यार, I need 5 lakh rupees. You know, most people will say, यार, I don't know. You know, पता नहीं whether he will return or not. Even more difficult is if I say I'm standing for elections and I want you to vote for me.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a joke?
It's really not.
It's not. And we in this country have vilified politics and public service so much. You see, we idealize warriors.
Yes, we do.
We idealize mullahs. We idealize jihadis. Right? We don't, you know, we only idealize our politicians after they are hanged or assassinated.
Because martyrs
In their lifetimes, our favorite pastime is, you know, utter contempt, which is built drilled into our head because, you know, because of this constant propaganda. I'm saying criticize them, hold them accountable, but there is no shortcut to public service, right? And I have a lot of respect for our counselors, you know, despite the cynicism that you and I have. You give people a chance in contesting elections in their neighborhood, on counselors, and there are more people for each seat, you know, right? Let that continue. But I think we need to also recognize that, you know, in a democracy, however dysfunctional, you need the system to continue. You need to have the elections. They need to be free and fair. That is the only way forward. The experiments of the powerful few people in uniform and in robes, they haven't served us well.
They didn't serve us at all.
You're talking about young voters. What are you hearing?
From my people?
Yeah, from people of your tribe, of your
tribe,
age group.
My tribe, the millennials. Sir, the millennials, for all intents and purposes, like I said before, are quite cynical. I don't mean to speak for all of them, but I'm going to because who else is
You
here?
are their self-appointed representative
that is what
at the
I am.
moment.
Yes,
Yeah.
and in true fashion, in true Pakistani fashion, that is what I am. And they all just want to leave.
Leave the country.
Leave the country. Leave the country. Get out of there. Get out of here as quickly as possible.
Do you think that sentiment has enhanced after Imran Khan in jail, PTI crackdown? There's nothing left in the country. The Messiah is gone. Do you think that has
Sure. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. It
But
has.
before that, they had high hopes of the country?
they had highs putting it.
Okay, moderate hopes?
They had moderate hopes that, because again, I think our generational psyche, there's a problem. Our generational psyche is built around a savior, right? It is built around populism, and is also built around strong masculine role models.
Really?
Right? Where
Even for young women? No.
I
See
think
you
so.
again.
So
now you're speaking for your
sir,
gender.
I think so.
You think so?
Actually. I think so.
Okay. That's worrying.
I mean, it is, right?
Yeah.
Where someone, and listen, I have no skin in, like, it's fine. Like, if they wanted to vote for him, but the reasons they gave for voting for him, you know, is he's truthful. Okay, fine, he's truthful. How do you know? No one knows. But also, he's a man's man. What does that mean? He's a man's man. Do you know what I mean? So they are beholden to populism. They are beholden, and they don't want to help themselves, which is why they want to leave. It's not like there's no problems abroad. I mean, you know that you would know this better than most people. You worked abroad, all those things. It's not like there are no problems abroad, but they just don't. At the end of the day, my generation, myself included, I left for quite a bit. We don't want to help ourselves so much.
Okay. Do you think that sentiment is equally true in, for example, Punjab? You know, I mean, Sindh and Punjab is a different ball game as well. But the promises, for example, Shahbaz Sharif, Nawaz Sharif, they are making. Are you hearing? Is that inspiring younger people, or they are hooked on PTI and Imran Khan?
I don't know of their political affiliation, but that sentiment is not as prominent because, and you know this, because things aren't as bad in Punjab as they are in Sindh. And by things I mean just security and stuff. Just basic things. Like,
well, it's debatable. You see, most of the people who take these dodgy routes to get to Europe, they're from Punjab. The whole the illegal route, people wanting to leave the country.
It's called Dunki.
Dunki,
yeah.
The Shah Rukh Khan film.
The Shah Rukh Khan film.
Dunki, right?
Fantastic. Made a movie about that.
Yeah,
makes a movie about everything.
But yeah, so Punjab is obviously, yes, more prosperous, huge, vast, but the inequalities and the desperation sometimes is equally high.
It's more prominent, you think?
More prominent. But I'm concerned about the young voter ostensibly wanting to leave the country because they see no hope. Right? I mean, is that really true? I mean, we've seen numbers in the last maybe 2 years.
Massive exodus.
Do you know people you know?
Sir,
who have
people
left?
I know people who were settled here, people who are, mashallah, for all intents and purposes, prominent here, got up and left because they just didn't see the point here. People who had immense promise here, singers, your bankers, your content creators even, they just left. Everyone just wants to leave.
I mean, okay, so the question is, how much of that has to do with the overall economic decline in the country, and how much is that a factor of Imran Khan now being in jail and PTI?
I don't think it's Imran Khan. I think it's a function of, we were speaking off air about technological determinism, which is the view that you are only a consequence of the level of technology. I don't think, I mean, you can call it, you can give it that name, but really it's about what has happened before. It's just never been broadcast, right? And my generation, even though we did hear stories from your generation, we never actually saw it. Right?
Okay.
And
you didn't see it on social media.
We didn't see it at all.
It was there in the books,
but we never read.
But nobody reads books.
I mean, or we were kept away from those books. But either way, we just didn't know that this is how bad it gets, right? And then people came out and they were like, no, this has been happening, right? And so when we saw that,
so there's a sense of disillusionment as well.
Absolutely, that's the word. Yes.
And institutions which were held in high esteem, the respect for them has gone down.
Unfortunately, and that's not good for anyone. That's not good for Pakistan. That's not good for Pakistan.
But I think that, it is also unavoidable when you keep wanting to control and maneuver things.
Yeah. But what we were speaking about earlier, my generation generally, they don't see because the thing is, any kind of work, I think, is a hopeful endeavor. I think they've lost hope, and so they understand. I think, not to take too much away from them, I think they understand that it's difficult abroad, but they just don't want to. How do you say it? They don't want to build their house on a beach, or I don't know. They don't want to set up on a sinking ship or whatever kind of euphemism.
Look, I personally encourage young people, if they want to go abroad.
For good? Settle?
No.
Okay.
To get education, scholarships, PhDs, professional growth. Because I feel that your first duty is to yourself.
Sure.
And if you go abroad and you thrive, you always have the option of coming back, like I did, right? But if you're stuck here and you're not thriving, you're not growing, you're depressed by the social inequality, by violence against women, by economic situation, then you're not helping yourself, you're not helping anyone. But with this, so some people have gotten out and they want to go out, but many are stuck.
Yes.
And they will have the choice to vote.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
on February 8th. Yes. And I think there's a big question mark on which way they are going to go, whether they will vote or not, and if they will vote, which way they are going to vote. And I think that really scares a lot of people in this country.
You think that scares people?
That scares people because you don't know this young voter, what is going through their head. Most of our political leaders are 70 plus, except for maybe Bilawal and Mariam, but they are from legacy parties.
Sure.
And so it would be really interesting to see.
It's interesting. The people who who constructed this constitution, when they constructed it, they were all young men and women. You know?
Yes.
I mean, young-ish.
The National Assembly, yes. I mean, many of them were, in their 40s,
early 40s, late 30s, stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that I don't know. I don't know where we went wrong, but I do think I don't think that it's valid, the fear, right? Because most of these kids, I mean, they're crestfallen, you know. And this I can speak to for me as well, especially after what happened with Gaza and all, you know, because nothing like comparison to kind of really set you know, to really give yourself a proper appraisal of where you stand. Look at how South Africa behaved. Look at how a lot of these other countries behaved, and we couldn't, you know,
I know that, but you know, we are a nation. We love to hate U.S. foreign policy, but if anybody offers me a green card, we will jump at it.
All of us.
So that's the kind of nation we are.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
we criticize the West, but given half the opportunity,
half of it, yes, absolutely,
we'll take it.
Yes, yeah. But maybe I will vote.
I convince you.
Yes, sir. Maybe I will vote.
Good job.
Maybe I will vote.
I won't ask you who are you going to vote for, but as long as you vote.
No, maybe I will.
But I think that's what.
Sure.
I mean, that, you know, at the end of the day, it's your choice.
Okay.
But I think it's better to vote than not vote.
If I wanted to make this a clickbaity thing, sum in 30 seconds, how do I figure out who I should vote for? Like, what question should I ask? Because people aren't, you know.
Like we said, depending on where you are in the country or where you are in your, you know, in society, you will have your own criteria. You know, I've covered American elections, and some people vote on single issue, you know, abortion, or gun rights, or immigration. You know, in working democracies, that's what that matters. Or maybe you are anti-Israel. I don't know. Over here, our issues are more basic. It's bread and butter. It's survival. It's fundamental rights. So you will decide for yourself what matters to you the most. If corruption is number one issue, maybe the choice will be clear for you. But if you think corruption is one of the several problems and there are bigger issues at hand, then you will be guided by those considerations.
Let your gut basically decide, and you trust your instincts, stuff like this.
You know, it's not like having a crush.
Okay.
My gut feeling is this person is good for me.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Because you have your political parties, you have your leaders, you have their track record, and you will look at that, I think, and then decide who is good for you, for your city, for your province, for your country.
Are you going to vote?
I was hoping that you were not going to ask me this.
Is this how you?
See, my situation is very different. Every time I've voted,
yes,
the person I voted for, they lose.
They just lose, though, right? Nothing worse happens.
Yeah, but I have voted before. I have voted here. I've voted in Britain in local elections. But there's a greater chance that they will lose.
Oh, so I have a few ideas of who you should vote for. Then this is great. This is a good thing.
But at least I do make the effort of going and voting.
Yeah.
And if I am in my hometown Khairpur on the election day, I will vote. If I am here stuck in the studio with our election transmission, then I won't be able to vote.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
I think I have a similar problem.